All right, Jonathan and Jeff, our guest this week.
Yes.
We have tech history. Jonathan, go ahead, take it away.
This week, from July 12th to the 18th, we have on July 12th, Not So Final Fantasy.
What is this all about?
The original Final Fantasy was released on Nintendo on the 12th, 1990.
NES, 1990? Yeah, I was out of the game industry at that point.
Did you have a Nintendo, Victor?
I
Like
did
the
not.
original OG one? No.
Yeah, I never really got into gaming only because I think, well, for one, we couldn't afford it as a kid, but I had friends that had it. And so I would go and I play, but I never became any like gamer because, my mom always said is like, a dead body begins to stink after 3 days, which was her way of saying is like, look, you don't want to just go and start staying at somebody's house because they're going to get annoyed at you, So I would always keep that in the back of my mind, when visiting friends. I would make sure I would only visit like once in a great while, just so that every time I would go visit, it would be a renewed experience, we can actually do like something fun and we weren't just bored with each other, So when I would go over to friends' house that did have gaming, it's like we'd play for a couple hours and it would take me like half of the time to learn how to play the game, and then the other half, then I just get my butt kicked by them. But yeah, no, I've never seen Final Fantasy, so I depend on you young folks to tell me about it.
That I don't feel like this Final Fantasy was as popular as the newer ones now. They're like on Final Fantasy 13 or something like that now.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Final Fantasy. I played well, actually I never played any of the Final Fantasies, but I just due to the popularity, I read a little bit about it, and it's interesting because the company that made Final Fantasy, that game, the very first Final Fantasy, that was actually supposed to be the last game. Like that company, I think I could be a little off on this, but I think that company was planning to go out. Like it was done with the industry. It was going out of business, and it was like, all right, this is the last game we're gonna make, and that's why they called it Final Fantasy, because that was their planned last game. But that was actually, ironically, that was the game that brought them back, and it just exploded in popularity. And then Final Fantasy 2, 3, 4 came out, and that actually brought them back from the brink of ending, right?
From the brink of extinction.
Yeah. So that name is kind of funny. It's ironic in a way.
They thought it was going to be the Final Fantasy, but
Yeah.
Oh, that's why they're calling it Not So Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that until now.
Interesting. Okay. And apparently the guy or the company the guy here, Hironobu Sakaguchi. He's a video game designer, director, producer, writer, film director. Interesting. I could totally see directors and producers being involved with gaming now because there's a storyline behind all these games.
Yeah.
A lot more
complex now.
Yeah, a lot more than the days of Pac-Man, Asteroids, and Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
It's like you and I could be a game designer and we can also be the producers and directors of it because it was just a cartoon. You didn't need this elaborate staff. But now with games like, I guess, Final Fantasy 13, there's like a whole like backstory to it or something, So
yeah, there's like a cinematic soundtrack to it. There's like, yeah, I can definitely see a whole production team behind every game. Whereas before it was just like all 8-bit, clicks and beeps.
Yeah. Did you join the gaming industry, Jeff, where you still had to blow into the cartridges?
Yes, I remember those days.
Yeah, Jonathan and his brother got good at it. They're like, they'd sit there and put it in and it didn't work. Yeah. Almost spit in it, put it back.
I heard it didn't really help. I'm not sure if it did help, because I've heard like differing opinions. A lot of people say you're actually doing harm to your game that way, but to me, after I did that a couple times, it always is almost like fail-safe way to get the game
Yeah.
working.
I have no idea why you had to blow into the cartridge. It's like it didn't make
Dust,
sense
man.
to
You're getting
me.
the dust out.
It
Like,
always got dusty, even though you just played it, like
Yeah, there you go.
that was horrible, man. What else we got, Jonathan?
Next up, we have July 14th, the first Mars flyby.
The first Mars flyby.
Ooh.
By the Mariner 4.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. All these panels, they're solar panels, aren't they?
Mhm.
That's crazy. I mean, I wouldn't imagine a satellite to go out into space and just work with its endless energy. I mean, they have batteries, but those batteries need to be recharged. So I'm sure they go through cycles of recharge, so you put a battery in there and the solar panel. So it would go through, do what it needs to do, drain the battery. And in space, it's weightless. So there's no worry about it falling out of space. But then it just got to sit there and just kind of do a shutdown. And maybe there's some kind of timer or something, maybe like a clapper that says, hey, wake up in 12 hours, you'll be fully charged, But yeah, I would imagine that's how these work, It's pretty crazy.
Have you heard of the Dyson sphere?
The Dyson sphere?
Yeah.
That
It's
like
a
like the vacuum cleaner Dyson?
no, it's like it's a very theoretical science fictiony concept that people have been thinking about. But well, a couple years ago, right, there was like a distant star where it kept flickering in a way, in a certain pattern that people didn't understand why. It could have been from natural causes, right? So there were a lot of people were proposing it was a possible Dyson sphere. And what the Dyson sphere is, it is a technological, like, how should I explain this? It's a covering, it's a giant solar panel that covers the entire sun. So you get 100% of the sun's power pumped into these, giant power supply, whatever you can think of. But basically, you cover the sun and you just you suck all the solar energy from the sun or from any star. And that's the Dyson sphere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, is that how you make the Death Star too?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Is that how you make the Death Star?
Could be, yeah. I would imagine you would need that kind of power to build a Death Star.
Wow.
Yeah, and people even propose like how you might be able to construct a Dyson sphere. But the interesting is, just the amount of material it takes to, have like panels cover the sun.
Yeah, it's intense.
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough material in the solar system to do something like that. Yeah, it's a lot of material that's needed. But it's really interesting. The whole idea is really interesting because they show it to be it's entirely possible. Just not, definitely not within our technological means at the moment, at least not for the time being, but it's possible. And if you could do that, if you can just somehow gather all the sun's power, just the things that you would be able to do would be, beyond blows your mind.
Wow. Yeah, look at this guy. He died in, oh wow. He just died in 2020,
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
age 96. Freeman Dyson.
Astrophysicists.
Oh, he's like Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. I would like to sit down with a person like him and just have a conversation about stuff that just doesn't exist and have them come up with the ideas of how you can create it,
Yeah, I think those would be, oh man, if he had a podcast, I'm sure it would be amazing.
Well, Neil deGrasse, is that his name? He's got a podcast, and
Oh, does he?
yeah, he's an astrophysicist, right, or something like that.
Some kind of physicist, yeah.
Yeah, he's he's a smart guy. to say the least. But yeah, he's got a podcast of his own. So
Nice. I'm gonna check that out.
what else we got, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, next we have July 15th, Nintendo releases Famicom. Famicom?
Famicom?
Famicom. I think that is
Short.
that the predecessor to the Nintendo?
1983.
Well, Famicom is short for family computer in Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, it was before the NES.
So this is the NES's father. It's the ancestor to what we're currently playing with now.
This is the ancestor to the NES system.
I mean, it still has the same concept for the controller. It was just the 2 buttons and little D-pad.
Yeah. Oh man.
Do you know what Nintendo originally did before gaming?
Let me guess. Anything to do with cars at all? No?
I think
Handmade playing cards.
yep.
Oh, what?
Yep.
I would never have thought that. I
They
mean, you know, there's the gaming concept, right? The concept of gaming and entertainment, but yeah, I would never have guessed.
check it out when it was founded.
1889.
Oh,
Kidding me? What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
There was no computers back then, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
They did have Pokemon cards, though. I can attest to that because I think your brother Gerard still has all like 100 boxes of Pokemon cards.
yeah, we have all of our collection still in perfect, pristine condition.
Are they mint condition?
Yes.
Oh, they're probably worth a lot.
I was gonna say, you think they're worth anything right now?
We have looked them up. I think we have like 1 or 2 that are worth at least like $50.
That's pretty good for a card.
Yeah. For 1 single card.
And what about the other ones?
I mean, they're all right. I mean, they're not worth much, but
When you say not worth much, was it more than the 50 cents that I spent?
probably like maybe $1 now.
So they doubled in price. All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, I know. I heard a story of a guy that his house he couldn't pay for his mortgage anymore. He was going to have to sell his house, or he put it up for mortgage, and he was cleaning out his basement. He found a Superman #1.
Oh wow.
A comic book
Yeah.
or a
Comic book. Yeah, Superman #1.
oh wow.
And that saved everything, like, and more, like double over, you know, whatever the house was worth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mint condition?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think so.
That's
I think it
crazy.
would have to be worth that much.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Cool. What else we got, Jonathan?
Next, on July 17th, we have the first photograph of a star.
Oh dang.
This was 1850?
That's like one of the first telescopes or observatory.
Harvard Observatory.
Oh wow.
The Vega and Lyra in the Lyra constellation, the second brightest star in Northern Hemisphere. That's crazy.
I mean, now they got telescopes like 5 times as big as that one.
Yeah.
Got the Hubble telescope.
Yeah.
Sitting out in space, and they're trying to fix it right now because all their computers on the Hubble telescope, I think it's from like the 80s or the 90s. I think so they're trying to figure out like what to do about that, because I think some of the parts are failing. So they're trying to, that's going to be an undertaking.
Trivia question about the Hubble. How many megapixels is that camera?
Oh, that's a good one.
1.
That's right. It's 1 megapixel. Yeah. It's not so much the megapixels that matters in a camera. Well, I mean, it helps, but it's not everything. It's actually the lens. The lenses in the camera is what really matter.
I see.
Yeah. So
That's some good, some interesting trivia. I'm gonna ask my friends that.
what else we got, Jonathan?
All right. We'll go on to July 18th, where Intel was founded
Intel. Oh man,
in 1968.
this was pretty like almost, I want to say less than a year from my birthday. I was born in 69. So Intel has been around for 53 years. Wow. That is crazy. 1968. They started off with the 8088 processor. You know, one thing that's interesting about Intel is that oh man, we're going to have to verify this, but I believe that they founded the CMOS in a computer. You know what CMOS is, Jeff?
Yeah.
So for Jonathan's edification here, the CMOS is the part of the motherboard that actually acts as the booting process. So the CMOS recognizes the hard drive, the processor, the memory, and then it kind of hands off the boot process into the hard drive so that then, you know, the operating system can load into memory and do its thing. But they do have one heck of a processor.
Oh yeah.
We had about 10 episodes ago, we had my stepson Gerard talking about hardware, and AMD AMD has always been on the heels of Intel performance. And now with what's their latest processor, Jonathan? Do you remember?
The Ryzen.
The Ryzen processor. That thing is not only kicking Intel's butt in performance, it's also kicking it in price. So
the last computer I had, I used a Phenom 2.
The
That was the
Phenom,
last time I built a computer. And then ever since then, I've just been using laptops. But yeah, that was my first introduction to AMD.
How long ago did you build your first computer?
Well, it wasn't the first. It was definitely the last time I built my computer, just because lack of time. But last time was, geez, I say 11 years ago. 12 years ago. That's about the time Phenom 2 came out.
Yeah. I think I have the Athlon processors on a couple of machines that I built about 10 years ago. They're still going. Yeah. Like,
are you still building computers at all?
I haven't built a computer in 10 years, but I think I'm due for one. I'm due for a build. I'm running.
Did you ever? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm running two machines right now. One is a file server with it has 16 terabytes of storage, and it's rated so I lose 4 terabytes. So I only have 12 terabytes capacity because of the RAID system losing one drive for replication and integrity. And then I have another one that's just a virtual appliance. I run about maybe like 6 or 7 virtual machines, all different operating systems for all different purposes. So I'm running actually majority of them are Windows, some flavor of Windows. But I do have an Ubuntu Linux machine in there, and I have another couple of different, those I have turned off right now, but I have a couple of different flavors of Linux as well that I run on that virtual appliance. And it's cool because, I just turn them off and turn them on. And if I decide I don't want it, I just go ahead and delete the operating system and not worry about, or delete the whole virtual machine, without having to have the hardware. And so whenever I want to spin up a virtual machine, I just do it in that virtual environment.
Yeah, virtualization is a big thing.
What I want to do is I want to combine everything into one machine where I can have the file server and the virtual appliance run on one machine. So I was actually looking at the Ryzen. I'm thinking about doing the 12 core processor, which would give me, because they're hyper-threaded, it would give me a total of 24. And that motherboard can hold a total of 128 gigabytes of RAM, which is plenty for virtual machines. You know, virtual machines, I would just assign anywhere between 6 to 8 gigs of RAM, you know, for the stuff that I do. A lot of them are slimmed down. They're very specific to what I need. So I may run a SQL server, you know, on a virtual Windows server. And if that's all it's running, it doesn't need, you know, 32 gigs of RAM. It only needs about 6 or 8 gigs for development purposes. And even at that, I bring it down to the minimum, especially if I'm doing development, you know, or testing something or running some, you know, any type of test. Same thing like I was doing in our main segment. I'll talk about some videos that I created. I ran 2 virtual machines, one for testing, one for production, one for live recording. And so I would go and test code in my test machine on the test virtual box, and then I'd go and write it in the actual production one where I was doing the recording for the videos that I created. And so, yeah, those are mirrored. They're running the exact same specs and software. And so, you know, so it really comes in handy for stuff like that. I'm trying to get Windows 11 to run on one of them, but it's just that their hardware requirements are like way above any virtual machine can run. They put a huge limit on hardware, and so. But I'm gonna keep trying, see if I can get Windows 11 to run on virtual machines.
Nice.
So, but cool, yeah. Intel found it. I think that's all we had, huh?
All we have for this week in history.
Cool. That was July 12th through 18th in tech history. Until next time.